I can't believe I'm here.
I know, right?
I've studied it for years. This is a dream.
If you close the doors, it feels like you're in a tent that could be on a battlefield anywhere in the world. And you can sort of extrapolate and just imagine how sprawling her domain really was.
Wow. I am in Josephine's Malmaison. The sun is shining, the roses smell divine, and it's Josephine's Malmaison. And Napoleon's, but it's really Josephine's. So
Napoleon's.
We are at Malmaison.
Yes.
I know you can fill me in on a lot.
I don't know if you need to be filled in on much, to be honest.
I don't know. I know she purchased it when he was on the Egypt campaign.
Yes.
He was very unhappy that she spent all this money.
It far exceeded the budget they had in mind.
And the renovation far exceeded it.
And then there was the renovation.
And I know then she enjoyed it, built gardens, menagerie, and lived here after the divorce.
Yes. Yeah.
And I know that Alexander I from Russia, after coming in as the conquering victor, came here to visit many times.
Yes.
And they had at least a platonic love affair.
Yes.
Which is just mesmerizing.
Yeah. No, it's a house that's really rich in history. And what's nice about it as well is that it's really on a human scale. Mm-hmm. Unlike visiting...
Is this it, what we see?
Yeah, 100% of it. So it starts there on the left, it ends there on the right. It's only one room deep. It's really their home. It's not like visiting Versailles or Peterhof or...
It's not a palace.
No. And it was bought to be their country retreats, to be where they could go to get away from it all.
And we're about 40 minutes outside of Paris on modern roads.
Yeah.
So probably 4 to 5 hours.
4 to 5 hours in a horse and carriage,
horse.
Absolutely. And it's where they planned on spending their weekends and their free time.
And he did spend some time here.
Yes, Napoleon did. It was tricky though once he really rose to prominence because he's not only running the country, he's also managing the armies. And so he's always on the battlefield, always here, always there. And he really wasn't able to spend a lot of time at Malmaison. And even when he did, it was never a concerted block of time. It would be, I'm coming into Paris, I can stop at Malmaison for the night or maybe 2 nights before heading in to the Tuileries Palace or before whatever it might be.
I think poignantly to me was reading about, he did always feel she was his good luck charm, and that after he divorced her, things started going very poorly, shall we say, for him, and ending up with Waterloo and Elba and St. Helena. But she died when he was on Elba.
Yes.
And as I understand it, when he came back, and correct me if I'm wrong, he came here to visit Malmaison.
Yes.
To pay homage. And he missed his Josephine. I just feel it was still a great love affair.
Oh, they even say that his final word was Josephine.
On St. Helene.
Yes, yeah, as his final word ever.
Was Josephine.
Yeah.
It's just the poignancy of thinking of him coming back here after her death and knowing he missed it.
Well, it was a place that was near and dear to him for a lot of different reasons, but first of all, it was because of Josephine.
Well, I know he stayed at Versailles. He didn't stay at Versailles, but Fontainebleau.
He loved Fontainebleau, and that's where he left from when he went into exile in 1814. Mm-hmm. He spent a little bit of time at Versailles, but he didn't really feel like he fit into the history of Versailles. It was too heavily associated with one dynasty and one family, and with the sort of tumultuous way that he made his entrance into the forefront of French and European politics. An older palace like Fontainebleau, where multiple families, multiple dynasties had been,
he felt more comfortable.
A little bit more comfortable.
And they stayed in the Tuileries.
And they stayed in the Tuileries because he liked being in the center of everything, amongst the people. But when he stayed at Versailles as well, he didn't stay in the main palace. He stayed in sort of a palace off in the gardens called the Trianon. Yes.
But this to me tells more of his life story. This tells the social history. Could we peek in the garden before we
absolutely.
go?
Whatever you would like. Yeah.
Well, I want to see it all, but the gardens are where you read about her walking through with Alexander I, and they feel she caught a cold there, and that is what she died of.
And yes. And the gardens also, she spent a lot of time in the gardens herself. She hosted dinners out there when it was when the weather permitted. She had a greenhouse that she loved very, very much. She was an avid botanist, had over, you read different numbers, but a truly staggering collection of roses.
So the gardens are where she walked with all her guests. She had the army, the Grande Armée, bring back plants from all the campaigns.
Yes.
And all over the world.
Yes.
And didn't she sneak plants back from England, even
Yes.
though there was the embargo?
Even though there was the famous embargo that Napoleon passed to help punish Britain's maritime empire,
She didn't care.
she didn't care. She got what she wanted, but she was actually really nice about it and let botanists into her greenhouses to study her impressive collection of plants. And so even today, there are actually 2 strains of roses that are named for Josephine.
2. Do
2.
we know these? We'll pretend these have to be Josephine roses. Oh, lovely. This is where I imagine her enjoying her life.
What is your
Alexander
favorite,
walked here.
Alexander walked here.
That's just my big thing.
Is that what you like most about it, though? Like the sort of like interlacing of Russian and French history, this weird cross section?
Well, just that the conqueror, the victor of Napoleon, the first thing he does almost is come here.
Oh, sure.
And it's like he's drawn to the, not just Josephine, but the illusion of Napoleonic Empire. He wants a taste of it, what the life was like.
Do you think that there was a desire to, like when Napoleon, for example, went into the Kremlin, he stayed in the bedroom.
Right.
Do you think there was a desire for Alexander I to undo what he had done and say, like, I haven't defeated Napoleon until I'm sleeping in his bed?
I think that is very good theory. I think that is a very good theory.
Interesting.
It would be, but he came to my home, I'm going to his home.
Well, that's the.
But I
right?
think he had a genuine affection for Josephine. The gifts they exchanged were very intimate.
But
And
what is the timeline like for the exchange of these gifts? You've mentioned it several times.
Well,
but
the thing that fascinated me is the Gonzaga cameo, which is one of the most famous cameos of antiquity.
Yeah.
It's now in the Hermitage, and she gave it to him. And it's about 2 lovers, and that to me is said so much more than a gift. But it was also one of her most precious things, and she was known for her cameos.
Sure.
Josephine had a cameo crown that was exquisite, and she just really adored cameos, which I think was apropos of the period, as you had said, with the founding of Pompeii and Herculaneum, and that was sort of an imperial style of jewelry.
Sure.
But to give him that cameo, probably the most valuable in the world.
It's hard to think it's a coincidence.
Well,
right?
that's what I think.
Thematically speaking.
Yes.
If not for the rarity of it,
Give him an orange. I mean, I don't. But the Gonzaga cameo is saying a whole lot more. So I think he was intrigued with her. I think she appreciated the protection he offered because she had no idea what was going to happen to her when the Russians came marching in.
And I think it's hard to imagine the fear or the ambiguity or the fear that would emerge from the ambiguity.
Exactly. But she didn't live long afterwards. So
no, but of course she didn't
sad.
know. She wasn't sick prior to.
But Alexander also, and I'll have to look it up, but did take care of her children. Bought a lot of her things so they had money. He did a lot to take care of Eugene and Hortense. The carriage still amazes me.
Yeah, we're very lucky to have that here as well. That's one of the things that's nice about Malmaison is that it's not just his house, it's also the National Napoleon Museum here in France.
Oh, it is called a National Napoleon.
It's technically, it's a national museum, and it's one of the only museums dedicated exclusively to Napoleon. So the portraits that you see here, the furniture that you see here, the beds, all of those things.
That's why so much is original.
Yeah. Occasionally with, for example, the dining table, it was a dining table made for Napoleon and made for the imperial family, but it was in a different palace and then brought here for the museum.
Yeah. I can't believe I'm here.
I know, right?
I've studied it for years. This is a dream. And I always read it was an excursion on this trip and never made it. So I am in Josephine's and Napoleon's. But it's Josephine's, Malmaison.
Yes.
I'm in the reception room.
Yeah, so this is the entranceway. It's the gateway into the home, literally. It's the only way in. You can go left, you can go right, up, down. but it sets a tone. When you come in here, you can see all around you, the colors are a little bit drab, a little bit dour. It's not very bright or cheery. It's the empire. It's built to last. They're drawing directly from ancient Rome. You can see as well these columns, the walls, all of it. It looks like marble. It's just been painted to look like marble.
Oh, faux.
Yeah, and so when they moved in here, it was a real battle between what they wanted and what they could actually do. But either way, like I said, it acts as the gateway, and so the house is divided in a really sort of neat way.
Give me the layout.
Sure. If we go through there, you have the entertaining rooms.
We will go through
When we go through there. Sorry. I would never shortchange you. When we go through there, you have the game room, you have a sitting room, a parlor room, and then you have the music room.
Okay.
And then
all public rooms of visitors.
Well, yeah, so that's an interesting note as well, is that if you were out at the house here, it was by invitation.
Oh, okay, so you
didn't.
It's
really, no, it's not a big palace, it's not for receiving royalty, it's for friends, family, close acquaintances. So entertaining rooms through there, and then through there we have the dining room, and then we have a few rooms just for the emperor. We have Napoleon's council room, and then we have his library and his office. And then above us, we have the bedrooms. So we have Napoleon's rooms above his office, his sitting room, his bedroom. We have rooms that were dedicated for the children, and then on the upper level, on that side, you have Josephine's quarters.
Let's explore.
All right.
So what room is this?
This is the music room. So back in the 1800s, obviously there's no recorded music, there's no radio, nothing like that. After dinner, if you have guests over, it's very common to sort of retire to a room like this and enjoy a bit of music.
Okay. Lovely. Do you know if that would have been their harpsichord?
Yes. So Josephine could play the harpsichord. She could sing as well. She could play guitar. You also have some of her paintings as well in here.
Quite an art collection.
But one thing that's really nice as well is that you can just make out Josephine's monogram up there, the J and the B. Yeah. So you have her music room in here, and then just past here is the golden salon, or the golden parlor.
I love the chandelier.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful.
That is gorgeous.
Yeah. And so, again, on this side of the house is the entertainment space. You might come to a room like this in the afternoon or in the evening for drinks, tea, coffee. Josephine, of course, who grew up in Martinique.
Right.
Had sort of exotic tastes. She liked punches with rum, different things like that were sort of a little bit unusual for the French. And Bordeaux wine. She helped to popularize Bordeaux wine as well.
Ah.
Bordeaux being on the Atlantic coast, their wine is exported towards the West Indies. And so she grew up with that.
Beautiful, beautiful pieces in the inlaid marble, Pietra d'Ore.
Yes, and if you look, you can see there used to be stones there as well. You can sort of see where the gems used to be. That was a fireplace that was...
I see.
Yes. That fireplace was offered to the Bonapartes by the Pope. But...
Before or after Napoleon refused to let him crown them?
It was actually after the coronation. It was during the coronation, that whole moment. But unfortunately, when the house was occupied during the Franco-Prussian War, the Prussian soldiers stole the jewels. Yes.
Those things happen. And this, as we discussed.
Yes. So
Alexander I.
Tsar Alexander I of Russia, visiting Josephine and her children here in Malmaison.
I'm trying to see, is it this room?
It is this room. So you can actually, if you look in the painting,
see the panels.
You can sort of match them up and you can see the gemstones in the painting
on
the fireplace.
So that's Josephine and probably Hortense and her husband and her children.
Yeah, so Louis
Napoleon.
Yes, and then the little boy in the front, that's the future Emperor Napoleon III.
Because the older son died, I believe.
Yes.
Wow. Right in this room. I'm amazed at how much of the furniture is original.
Yeah, we're very, very lucky to have such a rich collection.
It's wonderful. And
so we have Empire-style furniture, we have Egyptian Revival-style furniture as well. You may have seen the Sphinxes, things like that.
So I know what is done here.
Yeah, so this was the game room as well. Again, entertainment back in the early 1800s works a little bit differently. In the evening, card games are very popular to play, billiards as well. And you can see the scale of the table. It's much bigger, huge, absolutely. And the pockets are smaller as well, and you can see that they're flush with the surface. So it's a little bit more difficult than a pool table like what we're used to today.
Imagine Napoleon, who wasn't very tall, trying to reach up to this.
Absolutely. Well, you can see how long the stick is. That really helped him out
Well,
there.
that probably did. But the lamps on top remind me very much. This looks Pompeian to me.
Absolutely. So a lot of the shapes that you see in the furniture, the lamps, some of the tables, things like that, are taken directly out of what they were finding in the excavations in Pompeii.
Such an exciting time.
Absolutely. And, you know, Napoleon, that was part of the goal. He wants to bring people here. He wants to show them that he's traveled the world, that he's a man of culture. Even the colors on the doors that you can see here, Napoleon picked that himself because it reminded him of the sands that he saw in Egypt in 1798.
And I would think he would downplay Egypt because even though he lied about it, it was not a success.
Well, we know that it wasn't a success, but of course information traveled more slowly back then, and he was a master at PR. And so even though it was a military, absolutely, even though it was a military failure, he was able to spin it and say, oh, no, this is now a cultural expedition.
But it was a cultural success.
It became one,
Huge
sure. Oh,
cultural
undeniably,
success.
absolutely.
And this obviously is a dining room.
Obviously, please.
Beautiful, beautiful floor.
Oh, yeah, the beautiful marble floors, and you can see the frescoes as well.
Very Pompeii.
Very Pompeian.
In fact, they just discovered a new blue room in Pompeii that they had never discovered. And these colors are very similar. Maybe there was something then.
So a lot of the motifs that you see here, a lot of the colors as well, straight out of Pompeii.
Wow. This is designed to be like one of his tents on campaign.
Absolutely, yeah. So this is his council room here at Malmaison. And the idea effectively was that if you close the doors, it feels like you're in a tent that could be on a battlefield anywhere in the world.
And brilliant, brilliant design with his eagle.
So the eagle, that's the imperial symbol. And you'll see lots of other sort of military symbols as well. You'll see quivers of arrows, different things like that. Napoleon comes to power, as you know better than me, 1799. And under the empire, war becomes an aesthetic. And so you see...
well said. War becomes an aesthetic. I like that.
Yeah, and you'll see that in the house as well, because you're not just visiting the home of Napoleon Bonaparte, first consul or emperor or whomever it might be, you're also visiting the home of the general. And so you see these little military touches all over the place, especially in these rooms that were really just for Napoleon.
Well, and the portrait of his mother, Letitia.
So, yes, the two main women in his life
who
here.
hated each other. Well,
Yes.
Letitia hated Josephine.
yeah.
I've never heard how she felt. But this is the iconic portrait of Josephine.
Yeah, and exactly.
One of them.
Well, no, and I love how they've set them up sort of facing off across the fireplace.
I do too.
Yeah, so you have Josephine sitting here, obviously in a very beautiful Empire-style dress. And you can see, obviously, flowers on the couch next to her, one of those famous cashmere shawls. And it's just a very simple, very elegant portrait.
It is, and her mouth's closed is to hide her bad teeth from
Mouth
all the
absolutely
sugar
closed to
cane
hide
she
her bad
chewed
teeth.
on Martinique.
Yes. And then
They're
on the other
beautiful.
side, Laetitia with a bust of her son, or her favorite son at
Her
least,
favorite son.
over her shoulder. And it's also, speaking about the connection between France and America under Napoleon, it was in this room that the Louisiana Purchase was decided.
Right here.
Right here, yeah.
Huge implications.
Yes. 30 cents an acre.
But just to think this is where he held his council meetings, or held many of them.
When he was here, yeah. And then just through the door that we came through on the side, there's a little bit of an alcove, and that's where they would have trash cans and things like that to burn the notes from the meetings to keep them confidential.
Of course. Oh, look at the ceiling design.
Yeah.
For the love of books.
For the love of books.
This is the bibliothèque.
So this is his library, his office. Napoleon spent a lot of time in here writing, reading, strategizing, all sorts of different things.
I've read about this desk.
Yes.
And it is unique in the world because he can pull it out and would work on the desk But then when he was either done or visitors came, he can close it up so his desk is clean and no papers can be seen. It's a very famous desk.
Yeah, very, very cleverly designed.
And I should know the
Jacob. The Jacob brothers, yeah. So that's his original desk, and the books here as well.
Are original.
They're originals, and they're just some of the books that he had. He was a voracious reader. He also, in his youth, he also did a little bit of writing. He wrote sort of Corsican revenge novels where he dreamt about Corsican independence. And then he loved reading about history, military campaigns, Roman wars, things like that. He's a fan of Caesar, and he's also fighting wars on the same terrain that Caesar is, so he wants to know what worked, what didn't.
It's amazing. And probably his globe?
Yeah, so that's his globe, and then, you know, the house has 2 stories. It's not a very, very big home. And then his private bedroom was right above us, and so there's, back behind the columns there, it's hard to see, there's a little spiral staircase that he could come down so that he could access his bedroom directly.
Because he would work sometimes
all hours of the night,
2 and 3 in the morning.
He really didn't sleep much. It was 4 or 5 hours, he would say, and it didn't have to be 4 or 5 hours at the same time either. So it was 2 hours here and 3 hours there, or 1 and 4, 4 and 1. He was happy with whatever, and so he was always in and out.
The famous David portrait of him has the clock at 2, 3 a.m. and the candle burned down. It's at our National Gallery in Washington.
Yeah. And then you notice the ceiling when we came in as well. It's a very, very interesting ceiling. Obviously, if you just sort of look at it, it is inspired directly by Roman archaeology. They had unearthed Pompeian Herculaneum.
Right.
And so there's neoclassicism, and empire-style design follows it. And rather than just referencing antiquity, here it starts copying it directly. And so in these medallions, you have great thinkers from antiquity, but mixed in with people from the Enlightenment. So you can see Voltaire up there, you can see Dante, you can see different people like that. And Napoleon considered himself very much a child of the Enlightenment.
He was.
Yeah, oh sure. And so here you have a little bit of mixture of all the different schools of thought that influenced him.
So these have been turned into more museum. Was this artwork they would have had in their home?
Yes, so this is artwork from her private collection. She was an avid art collector, and as I'm sure you know, that Napoleon, when he traveled, as he conquered other cities, also traveled with art historians as well.
All the better to loot with.
Exactly. Well, you got to know what you're taking. This is very special as well. So you have here her travel kit, and you can see her initials. Josephine de Beauharnais or Bonaparte.
Oh, well, that was nice. She didn't have to change her initials. Although she wasn't Josephine with.
No. But you can see it set into the wood.
Oh, and look at them engraved on each one are perfume bottles, probably rouge. And I had read that women in France wore rouge during the Empire period, but that the British women thought that was just for streetwalkers. Yes,
it's a little bit seen as a little bit.
But the French thought it was au courant.
Exactly. This is something that she would travel with. Of course, she has makeup and perfume, like you saw, but you could also close it and use it as a writing desk. And we were speaking earlier about the legendary correspondences between Napoleon and Josephine.
Yes.
Which have, of course, you can find them in French, but they've also been translated widely as well.
Well, you speak of a travel kit in their correspondence, and I've read the letters of Napoleon saying, please come join me in Italy, please come join me. And she was having way too much fun in Paris, and probably having her affair with Hippolyte Charles, so she didn't go for a long time.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much she traveled. She did some. She went to Italy.
Then maybe it was a gift that he said, hoping that it would get her to travel more.
Yes. Oh, this is the bedroom.
So this is the bedroom. What strikes you about it? What catches your eye?
The swans.
The swans.
The canopy. But it is a tent again.
It is again a tent, yes. So she is the empress. You can even see the sort of fake oculus here with a very well painted but fake sky. This is her ceremonial bedroom. One of the things that the Bonapartes did when they took power formally as emperor and empress in 1804 is they reinstated certain court proceedings that had taken place under the Ancien Régime. So they would have a rising ceremony, they would have a sleeping ceremony, just like the kings had done at Versailles. So she does have a ceremonial bedroom for formal occasions.
So this was just the ceremonial one?
Yeah, her actual bedroom where she actually slept is just next door.
Oh, it's a beautiful, beautiful bedroom.
It really is. It's a very, very specific style of design, but it's done very, very well here.
I love it. Love it. So just ceremonial, and of course they're reinstituting all the royal protocols.
Yeah.
And it had been such little time since the revolution.
Yeah. Yeah. 15 years or so.
It's just shocking. So this is her actual bedroom?
Yeah, this is the bedroom where she actually slept, where she would spend her evenings, her mornings, etc.
And much better views of her gardens
Much
that
better
she
views,
loved.
much more lights.
I see her roses.
Yeah, you can see some of the roses out there. You can also see her really small bed.
Tiny.
Teeny tiny, yes.
Or is it just an optical illusion because it's enclosed?
No. So there is a mirror there that adds depth, which would help with the light and things like that, to add a little bit more light. But it was just a very, very small bed as well. And this is Napoleon's bedroom. Oh, a little riding coat. Interesting.
How imperial this coat is.
Yeah.
So was this his formal bedroom?
Yes, this is his formal bedroom.
Again,
here.
a tent.
Once again,
The
looks like a
man
tent.
liked tents.
He knows what he likes. And he really wasn't terribly fussy. But we're talking about sort of the aesthetics of the empire. You can see the table here with this beautiful porphyry marble top.
Oh, porphyry is so rare.
Oh, absolutely. So even just to have this much of it. You can see the tiger skin rug as well. So these little touches of exoticism as well. Just the young General
this is
Bonaparte.
the famous portrait. So yes, I know this portrait, the most famous of him as a young man.
Yeah.
And this is how Josephine first met him.
That's
Not real impressive, a little scraggly, she thought.
Absolutely. A scrappy little boy from Corsica. And the portrait is called the General Bonaparte and not Napoleon the General or something like that. Because when we talk about Napoleon, there are two phases, right? There's General Bonaparte and then there's Emperor Napoleon the First. And so here
this
we
was
just
General.
have... Absolutely. It's
He's
one of the earliest
still
portraits.
fairly well dressed.
Fairly well dressed, has a good head of hair as well
Yep.
at that point, because as he gets older, his
Yep.
hair starts to fall out. But yeah, looking focused, resolute.
And about shortly before this time, he'd been at the military school in France.
Yes.
But sort of bullied because he was Corsican, and so always had a real chip on his shoulder to prove.
First, yeah.
Yeah, it was not comfortable for him for a while.
No, it was the first Corsican to be admitted to the military school in
I
Paris.
didn't know that.
Yeah, which at that point wasn't like a West Point military academy. It was more like a finishing school for wealthy aristocrats. And so for him to be admitted there was really unprecedented, but also quite a big deal. And he was also quite lucky. You know, timing is everything with a good success story. And he enters into the military right as the revolution is breaking out. And because the military and the nobility were sort of inextricably intertwined at that point, as the revolution continues and as people start culling the nobility, to put it politely, there's lots of room for upward mobility within the military for this young civilian,
Because
common
they have
general.
no officers.
Absolutely.
If you have an officer that wasn't, I never thought of it that way, but of
Yeah.
course, if you were not nobility under the Ancien regime,
Yes, and so
had a clear path.
he's made a general in his early 20s after, I think it was 44 months of active service, which is really not much.
Nope. It is his generals from the Battle of Austerlitz.
From the Battle of Austerlitz, absolutely. which he thought would be the decisive victory in his military campaign and bring peace to the continent of Europe. It wasn't the case, but it was a nice thought. And it's also for that battle that he ordered the construction of the Arch of Triumph in Paris.
It's what I imagined, but you've added so much more context. I really appreciate it.
It was my absolute pleasure. I'm truly happy to do it. It's always so nice to come here.
It's wonderful, and as I imagined, it's a house museum, so it's a social history.
Yeah.
And I was shocked at how many original pieces, original artwork are part of this house museum that very few people visit.
Yeah, oh no, it's incredible. The collection here, not only for the building itself, but for the furniture, the painting, it's such a rich experience. And you really get to learn about these two legendary figures, not just for what they did, but for who they were.
Is it typical to come here and have so few other guests?
Yeah, it really is. It's one of the things that makes it so special. It's not only the quality of the building, it's the quality of the experience of visiting it. It's small, it's quiet, and part of that is because it's outside of Paris. You know, it's hard to get here on public transit, and so it's nice to be able to take the time to come here to really see it for yourself up close and personal.
But a world-class collection inside.
Absolutely,
totally
yeah.
world-class, that we could linger and see and then linger in the gardens.
Sure, yeah.
We know they walk these steps.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you
Now,
liked it.
I'm going to have sweet dreams tonight.
Good.